Hello and welcome to Whisky.com, where fine spirits meet. And today I'm at the Wild Turkey Distillery. And this distillery here is new. It was built in 2010, but all the recipe and all the procedures, all the heritage is kept the same. So we're not looking at a new bourbon, but the old Wild Turkey in a new and great plant. So if you drop by this area, it is actually very, very nice to be here. And now we're dropping into the production right away and see how the Wild Turkey whiskey is being made. Wild Turkey takes great care about the grains they use. They only use the highest quality grains. And for example, this grain here, the rye, comes from Germany because the rye in Germany grows the best. So all of the materials here are not genetically modified. This is very important for Wild Turkey because they want to do a natural bourbon. The water comes from the Kentucky River, and that is also important because this is very, very low in iron content, and that makes your whiskey even better. So this here is the yeast room where the yeast is being grown. First of all, we have the donor tub where we grow the yeast from the lab, and then later we get into the bigger container that grows the yeast, and then it is being transferred to the Fermentis. And the yeast at Wild Turkeys is very special. You have the yeast that is over 61 years old, and the yeast doesn't grow as much fusel oils as other yeasts, and that means you get a better product and also you get less headaches. Another thing is that this yeast produces the nutty flavors that you find in the Wild Turkey whiskey. I'm standing right next to the cooker where the grain is being cooked. The starch is being transferred into the sugars. This is done naturally by the enzymes within the malted barley. One specialty about Wild Turkey is that they cook the grains at room pressure. They don't cook at over pressure. That means you only have temperatures below 100 degrees Celsius, and for all the other grains except corn, you have even lower temperatures. We're here at the Fermentis. Wild Turkey has 21 fermenters, and behind me is the product of the yeast and the mash. We see that there is not a cake on top of it like in the other distilleries, and that is because of this special strain of yeast and also the fact that Wild Turkey doesn't pressure cook. So we have a beer at about 10 to 12% and no cake, and that is very special. You won't find that in many places. So here we have the copper still. The copper still has 19 layers, is 52 feet tall, and has a diameter of 5 foot. It distills the spirit at 125 proof, and here we see the low wines. That is the finished product from the copper still. The high wines come from the doubler that are behind this on one floor down. And this distills at 128 proof. And this is pretty low for the industry, but the Wild Turkey Distillery follows a philosophy of running the water through the mash and not using it as much for the dilution. Here I'm in the sensory lab, and these different bottles are taken directly from the still. So this is the white dog, and what Wild Turkey does is they sample the white dog. They nose it, they taste it and rate it, and then they connect this sample with the different barrels, so they always know what is inside the barrel and how they sampled it before they put in the barrel and how it works afterwards. So this is actually getting more knowledge and improving the product. I'm standing here right now on the way from the distillery building to the filling of the cask. And below me are the lines, and they are actually hurricane and tornado safe. The next step in the production is the filling of the barrels. The barrels come from the independent stave company, and they have a number 4 char. That is the deepest and heaviest char, and the lids have a number 3 char. And what you see here, that is not active, but here is the filling of the barrels where it actually happens. Before the barrels are filled, they're actually being diluted down from the 128 proof to 115 proof. That is 57.5% ABV. And that machine over there is where the printing of the label on the barrel happens. They print the distillery name, where they're located, their number, and the date on every barrel. And after the barrels have been filled, they're being loaded onto the trucks and sent off to the warehouses. And as this here is a quite new plant, we have all the equipment doing that for us, so there is no safety hazard. So now I'm in warehouse A, and this is the oldest warehouse of Wild Turkey. And here lie all the casks stored in 7 stories. And if you buy a single cask, then you will enter this warehouse A and get your own single cask that is then bottled and shipped to you. What is very interesting is that these casks here, after they are being emptied, 90% of them will be shipped to Ireland to mature the Irish whiskey. Only one of the Scottish distilleries gets their barrels from Wild Turkey. So here you can already smell all the great bourbon, and that is being bottled later for you to enjoy. And now we're here in the tank room where the whiskey is being diluted down to drinking strength. We get the raw whiskey from the barrel that has just been aged, and here they sample the whiskey to get the proof right, and then it's off to bottling. There are no additives except water. You're only allowed to put water in to proof it down to the drinking strength. We have some flavors around here, but they are only for the vodka. That is a shared plant, so don't mind the flavors. They will not get into your bourbon. Part of the bottling process is also quality control. And here in this lab, the people check everything from the position of the label, the color of the label, and also they take very great pride in the content. So they look if there is any impurities in there, if the flavor is off at any point. They have all this equipment to find out if they have the right water. And so here at Wild Turkey, you're in good hands that you always get a quality bourbon. Now we're at the bottling line, and we see there is no bottle running because we're just in between bottles, and they're changing the system for the new bottle. The last bottle that was bottled was a hip flask, and now they're changing for the rare breed product. So I'm standing here with Eddie Russell. You're already here at the distillery for 34 years. You're the 4th generation Russell, 3rd generation working here. Yep. So we have some great heritage here and some great experience. You will take us through a few of your products. So what do we got today?
So today we're first going to taste our Wild Turkey 101. This was the only product we had on the market up until the 70s. Most distilleries only had one product. Then we started introducing some different type products, some more high-end, some more hand-selected barrels. But this is our main product. It's a 101 proof. It is 7.5 years old on the average. So bourbon only has to be 2 years old, 4 years if you don't want to stay to age. The Wild Turkey, we tend to age things longer to get more flavor, more character in there. So this is the 101. So if you're looking at any type of whiskey, especially for a bourbon, the color has to be completely natural. We're the only whiskey in the world that can't add caramel color. So all that coloring comes from the barrel. It starts out white, just like water, a clear liquid, and then the barrel gives it the color. For me, a very important part of it is the nose. So you want to smell caramels, vanillas, maybe a little woody, smoky smell to it. So you want to have those things because your mind's already thinking it's going to taste good if it smells good. My dad always taught me to smell with your mouth closed and then smell with your mouth open. You get some different type tastes. Sort of with your mouth open, you take away a little of that alcohol smell. But then, of course, the flavor. And what we're looking for in a bourbon whiskey, by aging it in that barrel, you're picking up vanillas and caramels. You're picking up a little bit of the wood, a little smokiness, and also just those great flavors that's coming from that barrel. I think traditionally for Wild Turkey, it'll start out a little sweet from the corn and the vanilla in the barrel, and then we want the spicy taste back here in the back.
Yeah.
So we want a journey, not just one flavor, but a journey.
I would say, yeah, you have that spicy taste.
Yep.
So how much does your yeast influence the...
The yeast does some. The most of spiciness comes from the heavy rye content that we use in our mixture.
Okay.
So you got corn, rye, and barley malt in our bourbon, and we tend to use a little more rye than most people. So that's going to give it the spicy taste. Plus our proprietary yeast gives it a little more spiciness too. But a lot of that comes from the rye grain.
Okay, so great stuff. So you're now part of the Campari family. How does that influence your business and working here?
Yeah, it's been really great for us. Campari purchased Wild Turkey in 2009. Campari's an Italian company, and we're a very high priority for them. They really promoted us all over the world, not only here in the States, but as an export product. They put a lot of money behind advertising. They haven't tried to change anything about what we're doing here. So it's been very good for us in the money they've invested in this place. They've spent over $100 million since they bought it in 2009, built a new distillery, new bottling facilities, a new visitor center.
So that's great to know. So they give you the opportunity, they give you the exports, and you can focus on your bourbon.
That's right. And the
great.
good thing is they don't try to change anything about what we do. They say, you make the liquid, we'll get out there and sell it, which is a great thing for all of us.
Yeah, that's great. I had the 101. I liked it.
Yeah.
It has more flavor. So
Well, if you look at the history of bourbon, back in the beginning, everybody distilled at low proofs, bottled at high proofs, so it's much more natural product. And at Wild Turkey, that's what we're about. If you put a water to it and lower the proof down real low, you sort of take a lot of those flavors away. So this is more like right out of the barrel, very good taste and flavors.
yeah, that was the 128 proof, and you only diluted it a bit.
Yep.
So that's what we're talking about. We
Yep.
had it early in the video.
Yep.
So,
So the next one, what I'd like to taste here is Rare Breed. So this is a barrel proof whiskey, which means no water at all added. So this is right out of the barrel, filtered and put in a bottle. This has 6, 8, and 12-year-old whiskeys in it. Same recipe, same whiskey at the beginning, but different ages and different floors to give it different flavors. To me, this whiskey is what bourbon was about from the very beginning. It's a big, bold taste, but very smooth because it's been in the barrel long enough to give it all the great flavors you want. This batch right here is 112.8 proof. I've had batches as low as 108 up to 113. So that's where my barrel proofs, because we barrel at such a low proof. You can barrel at 125 and you can get up to 140 proof, but I want my barrel proof to be able to drink it without having to water it down.
Okay.
So on this one, the nose is even better because it's been in the barrel longer. You get a lot of caramel, a lot of vanilla right off front, but I think you get a little more smokiness.
Yeah, and I pretty much get oak.
You get some oak, and that comes from that 12 years of being in that barrel.
Definitely, that's 12 years of oak.
Yep.
How do you get the smokiness in there?
Well, that's from the charring of the inside of the barrel. So the barrels have to be burned or charred on the inside. So it's going to impart a little bit of smokiness to that.
But it's very light.
Very light,
Very light.
You don't want a lot of it. Then I think in the rare breed, it leaves such a great aftertaste in your mouth. It's a little more creamier or thick because it's older.
Oh yeah, and it's I don't know. I would say it's a full bourbon.
It's a full-bodied bourbon, definitely.
It's not one of these light where you only have candy and caramel
exactly.
and vanilla. Oh, now I got the finish. Oh, great finish with a lot of.
I think it has one of the best finish, and this is one that people that really love bourbon. This is what an old-fashioned bourbon tastes like.
Okay.
Big and bold and spicy, very full-bodied, lots of flavor, but very smooth on the back end. This one sort of starts out a little more bold and really smooths out on the back, where I think our 101 starts out smooth and gets spicier on the back. So just some great flavors in the rare breed.
I get the creaminess in the finish.
That's from the age. It's going to get a little more creamy, a little thicker as you keep it in that barrel.
Great stuff. So another question. I've seen your stuff a lot on TV. Like I've seen, I think in maybe CIS or somewhere else. Is that advertisement or are you just using your product?
Most of the time it's, I don't think our company's really sourced out or look for people to do that. Most of the time those shows are just looking at traditional, genuine products that they can back the story up with, and Wild Turkey is one of those brands that's been around forever. So I know they have a few shows here in the States. One's called Mad Men. It's about the 50s and 60s, and they have a lot of Wild Turkey on there. We have a local show that's done here in Kentucky about the Kentucky Sheriff, and he not only has Wild Turkey but some of the other bourbons. But it's not something that we go out and try to get. It's just more something that they're using to make things seem more authentic.
So it's just Wild Turkey is blended into society,
yeah,
so you
exactly.
can't leave it out.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So this is a different mash bill now.
Right, so I only have one recipe for my bourbon, one mash bill, and then I have one mash bill for our rye. Rye was what was originally made in the United States when it was first only up on the East Coast. Rye was the predominant grain. But as they came over and moved west, corn was predominant, so they started putting corn in their whiskey. So it gave it a little more sweeter taste and kept that rye in there to give that spiciness. So to be a straight bourbon whiskey, it has to be at least 51% corn. To be a rye, it has to be at least 51% rye grades. So the flavors are going to be completely different.
So we have more than 50% rye in this
More than 51% rye in there, if
Okay.
you're calling it a straight rye whiskey. So this one is going to be different from the bourbons, and you're not going to have as much sweetness. It's going to be more of a black pepper, earthy type taste, almost hints of mustiness, which is not good in a bourbon. So these are really made nowadays in the States. A lot of them use it for mixed drinks. Manhattans, old fashions, highballs, whiskey sours. The rye whiskey is what they were originally made with, so a lot of the mixologists are using the rye for that. This was something that 7 or 8 years ago you could only buy 3 ryes basically on a regular basis in the United States, and Wild Turkey was one of them, and we've always made it right here.
Okay.
But nowadays there's a lot of ryes, and they're growing more faster than bourbon is right now. They're very, very still a small part of our business. Less than 1%, but they're growing at a very rapid pace right now.
So more spiciness?
Yeah, you're going to get, now we still have some corn and barley malts in there. You're going to get a little more, like I said, a little more black pepper, a little more earthy taste, a little more of that rye bread taste to it, a little more dryness. The aftertaste is a little more grainy, like I said, a little more earthy type taste, but a little peppery taste to it too.
I got the pepper, definitely got the pepper. It's like a bread.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is.
It's like a bread in the liquid form.
Yep.
Yeah, I like it. It's got more body.
Oh yeah, rye's going to impart a lot more body to it because and that's why we use a little more of my bourbon to give that body to it. But rye is a taste that's different than bourbon because there's not a lot of sweetness to it. And then, a lot of palates, the sweetness is what a lot of them like. So the rye was sort of a surprise to all of us that it's taken off and grown like it has.
So maybe for the someone who's maybe a bit more mature
Yeah.
and has more experience with bourbon and looks for something more exciting and with stronger
Traditionally,
flavors.
that's what it was in the past. Now it is a sort of a younger generation that are drinking
Really?
it in mixed drinks.
Okay. Yeah, in mixed drinks you have
'Cause
the
it
other strong
really-
flavors, and then you need
Yeah, it really comes through in a drink.
yeah.
You know, because most people are adding some sweetness to a mixed drink, where this doesn't have the sweetness. You've got that taste that's going to come out and show in whatever
Yeah.
you mix it
You
with.
can do with more peppery.
Yeah.
So Wild Turkey, do you have like I don't know? Do you sell more cases during Thanksgiving time or?
Well, traditionally in the States, you always sold more in the fall of the year.
Okay.
So people, after summer was over, the holidays coming up with Thanksgiving and Christmas, they were not only drank more, but giving us more gifts to different people. But in the colder months is a time where generally the public drinks a lot more of the bourbons. You know, something that's a little warmer, that warms you up, that makes you feel a little better.
Yeah, we see that also in Germany.
Yeah.
The worse the weather, the more people like to stay in,
Right.
being cozy,
Yep.
have a glass of whiskey. So, thanks for having us here.
Thank you. I appreciate
It
everything.
was a great trip here
Yep.
at Wild Turkey, and if you ever come to Kentucky, this here is a must. The distillery is very beautiful. You have great tours here, and yeah, thanks for watching. And if you liked the video, then give me a thumbs up.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Hopefully, I'll be in Germany to see you guys someday.